Hello everybody, and for today's adventure we are at Lyndale Farmstead Park. It's part of the Theodorworth driveway. This park is located by the Rose Gardens and by the Peace Gardens. It's got a little pathway and playground equipment and wheelchair accessible. You have to bring straps though, so that when you put your... Bam Bam loves those. Oh, that one's coming up. Oh. Okay, so that one's for that one. And this one's for your puppies. Puppies. "25 things you may not know about Minneapolis parks." Number 1. Minneapolis has a higher percentage of its land devoted to parks than any other American city of similar population density. Murphy Square was the first Minneapolis park. It was donated to the city in 1857 by Edward Murphy and transferred to the park board in 1883. The original motto on the seal of the Board of Park Commissioners was "Health and Beauty," with an image of Minnehaha Falls in the background. The 1,200 trees on Victory Memorial Drive commemorate the Hennepin County lives lost during World War I and were originally all American elms. Lake Harriet, which we are by, was never connected to the chain of lakes because it is 7 feet lower in elevation than Lake Calhoun, which is now Betamecaska. Okay, where was I? The Works, number 6. The Works Progress Administration, WPA, a federal government program that credited jobs to help lift the country out of the Great Depression, built countless features in Minneapolis parks in the 1930s and 40s. The WPA stamp can be found on sidewalks, picnic tables, and benches and sandboxes, as well as on bridges and retaining walls along the river and creeks. That's cool.
That's good.
Number 7. There are 4 waterfalls in the city: Minnehaha, St. Anthony, Bridal Veil, and Shingle Creek. Shingle Creek is a small one, but it's still pretty and cool. Number 8. The park board has had only 10 superintendents in 125 years. 2 acting superintendents served for only about a year. And back to the waterfall at Bridal Veil, we have not been to that one yet, so we'll have to put that on our list of places to visit. Number 9. After a polio outbreak in Minneapolis in 1946 and another in 1948, group gatherings in parks declined and beaches were deserted. By the time a vaccine became available in 1960, television had taken its hold on leisure time, and few park programs achieved the huge crowds of the first half of the century. Number 10. The Wild Botanic Garden, now named after its creator, Eloise Butler, opened up in 1907. I have a separate video on that, so make sure you check that out. It was the first public garden to celebrate native plants. It's opposite the Lyndale Rose Garden, which is over there. Opened in 1908. Both gardens remain relatively unchanged. Number 11. The land on which the Minneapolis Institute of Arts is built actually is Dorialis Morrison Park. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm very sorry. This park was donated to the board, especially for construction of an art museum, which was built with private funding. Number 12. A pipeline was constructed in the 1950s from Bassett's Creek to Brownies to reserve the declining water levels in the chain of lakes. Another pipeline was constructed to draw water from the Mississippi River to the chain of lakes, and also to increase water flowing over Minnehaha Falls. Water pumping ceased in the 1990s. The name Grand Rounds was given to the Minneapolis system of interconnecting parkways by William Fowell. And there is a Fowell Park, and we'll be checking that out on a later day as well for a video. It's actually one of my favorite parks that we used to go swimming at when I was a child. That was in 1891. Fowell was the first president of the University of Minnesota and served as park commissioner from 1889 to 1907. Number 14. In the 1980s, Elmer the elm tree, a tree mascot, was introduced to teach school children about Dutch elm disease. He was very popular. He was once kidnapped, but was returned unharmed. Well, that's good. Unlike the hundreds of thousands of real elms which succumbed to the Dutch elm disease. That's sad. Number 15. The first playground equipment was added to Minneapolis parks in 1904. It consisted of sandboxes and swings at Loring and Riverside parks. Logan and Riverside parks received more extensive play apparatuses in 1906. Number 16. In 1990, park staff began control of the first major non-native invasive species in the chain of lakes by harvesting Eurasian water milfoil. On land, controlling other invasive species like buckhorn is a continual challenge for staff. Number 17. The park board led the creation of the interagency park partnership called the Clean Water Partnership to improve the water quality in the Chain of Lakes watershed in the 1990s. Number 18. Number 18. In 2008, there were 62 free wading pools in Minneapolis parks. 1 full-size pool, 2 water parks, and 11 beaches. And one of those free wading parks has my favorite seal, which I almost drowned when I was 4 playing on that thing, but I still love it. And you'll be able to see that in a later video. Number 19. The Board of Park Commissioners changed its name to Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board in 1969. Number 20. The first active recreation provided in parks was ice skating on the pond at Loring Park. In 1884, the ice was cleared and planned using horse-drawn implements. Whoa. Number 21. The first baseball field in a park was built in 1908 at the parade. Number 22. Minnehaha Park had the first zoo in Minneapolis in the 1890s. Animals included deer, elk, bison, sea lions, and alligator. And a mountain lion. The zoo was sold in 1907, but the deer elk were kept in the park until 1920s. Number 23. The park board developed Wood Chamberlain Field, an airport, not a sports facility, in 1923. The Metropolitan Airports Commission began leasing the land around 1940. The Lindbergh Terminal now sits on it. 924. The golf course at Theodorworth Park was the first Minneapolis called Glenwood Park in 1919. The 9-hole course had greens made of sand. And last but not least, number 25, the first parks purchased by the board in 1883 were Fairview, Logan, Loring, and Riverside. And this is a picture, the map, which I've taken lots of pictures of it because of the Grand Rounds Scenic Byway. Lyndale Farmstead, which is where we're at right now. Flowering under glass. Did you know Lyndale Farmstead once had greenhouses that hosted huge flower shows? Yes, it's true. Beginning in 1908, the flower show often had lined hundreds of people long waiting to view it. At its peak, as many as 20,000 visited the exhibit during its 2-week run before Thanksgiving. With the exception of a few years, they were an annual event until 1975. After the exhibit closed each year, flowers were sent to area hospitals and charitable groups. As Superintendent Theodorworth wrote, bringing good cheer and consolation to many of the sick and unfortunate. How did this event begin? Until 1906, flowers used in planting beds throughout the parks were bought from private growers. The construction of new greenhouses in 1907 was the beginning of a new nursery complex. By 1912, the complex covered an area nearly 6 city lots in size. Whoa! It had, It had 5 greenhouse wings with spaces for plant storage, propagation, and growing. The state art greenhouses were designed by the noted New York firm Lord Burham of Ivington-on-the-Hudson. Planting beds of annual flowers, perennials, and bulbs, which would seem elaborate by today's standards, were once common in the parks. Park board plant production in the mid-1940s reached 90,000 plants. Wow! Supplying 150 flower beds in 35 parks. In the 1970s, the energy crisis forced growing operations to cease. The old and obsolete greenhouses were too expensive to operate. They were replaced by the new operations facility, which opened in 1989. And on this bottom here, so this park that we're standing at right now, Theodorworth Minneapolis Park System, 1883 to 1944. This is the proposed plan of Lyndale Farmstead. Of the 8 tennis courts shown, only 2 were constructed. So there's tennis courts over there. And then this big hill over here, it goes towards Theodorworth's house. And then you travel down that way to the Rose Gardens and the Peace Gardens and Lake Harriet. And that's where we're heading now. caught my eye, so I just want to play.
What's that? A pine cone?
Mary had a little lamb and row, row, row your boat. And some of the things are gone. So, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb. Where's G? I think this is G. Okay, I'm done. That was fun. And this is coming up the hill from Farmstead Park. That is Theodore's house on the hill. I did a separate video for that. And across the street, you can't see it quite yet, but is the cemetery. And then more to the left is the rose gardens and the and this is part of the sledding hill that Theodore wanted in place so that he could watch the kids sledding from his house. Thank you so much for watching. Have an adventurous night. Bye for now.